good day to you, and welcome to the Way Forward Talks with me, Amrita. Today, we are going to discuss with a very wonderful person who is very energetic and who is always willing to, give great products and great services to people. So, very happy to welcome Mr. George, who is a marketing, personal branding, and thought leadership mentor. So, welcome, George.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. I'm very excited when you reached out, and yeah, I've seen some of your earlier interviews and episodes, so I consider it an honor to be here.
Very, very much. We are on the same side. We feel honored to have you. And we would like to know more about you. You can introduce yourself in your own words.
Okay. Well, thank you. So I think you can say I'm a marketing, personal branding, and thought leadership expert. I've had various roles over the years. I started off my career as a financial analyst in the investment banking section. But I realized, numbers on an Excel sheet were not really what drive me. I was more of a word on a sheet kind of a person, right? But so I resigned, then I moved into product specialist. Then after that, I moved into a fintech industry where I became a fintech journalist, and I started, combining the two things that I really knew, which is writing and finance. But unfortunately, that company, shut down and we had to move out. And that's when I got into the marketing bit. So I started off as a content marketer, and then from there I grew into, managing teams, taking care of product marketing, content marketing, customer advocacy, brand positioning, and all of that, right? So for the last 7 years, it's been an entirely marketing-driven journey. And in the last 1 year, I realized that a lot of these things that I do in helping brands position themselves, in helping brands, um, you know, how do I say, become or gain visibility. Uh, I realize I can do the same thing for people, right? A lot of us are inherently aware or unaware
Hmm.
of how much of a thought leader we are, like how much of a brand we are. And I realized that, it's time to take all this learning that I've gained over the years and now use it to start helping people like myself in better positioning them in their own domain as an expert, as an authority. But
Wonderful.
yeah.
Yes. So I actually see that personality branding is really important, and I think you have got into the right key, and it's beautiful to hear. Let's jump into the questions and learn more from you, I think. So marketing is your forte, so as you said. So when did you think of person needs? As you were mentioning about the person needs, was there a trigger for you to identify that this is necessary? Any idea or any moment you remember?
Are you talking about the
The
shift
person.
in my?
Yes. Yes.
Well, I think the initial realization set in a couple of years back when you sort of do a little bit of self-reflection and you think about the amount of time, the energy, and the effort that you invest into the company that you work for. And a lot of the times, we tend to have our identity associated with the company, with the role that we have. A lot of us, when we introduce ourselves, we're like, I'm so and so. I work as the head of marketing at this company. I work as the VP of this thing. Your entire identity is sort of confined. I would even say reduced to the role that you have within the company that you work for. But here's the thing. You could lose your job, the company could fire you, and then what is your identity? Then what do you stand out as, right? What are you known for? Um, and the second thing was if I had taken at least even 30% of the effort, forget 30%, even 10% of the effort that I put into the company that I work for, 10% of the time, 10% of the energy, 10% of the effort into building my own brand, into marketing myself and establishing myself as a thought leader, I would have achieved far more than, what I'm able to do at these firms that I work for. Why? Because one, there's no different levels of hierarchy involved. I don't have to wait for approvals. I don't have to, brainstorm with people about what works, what doesn't work. I literally have the freedom to do it the way I want, and nobody knows yourself like you do.
Correct.
Um, so these were the triggers, I'd say, that put me in this direction.
Wonderful. I think I should be thankful to those companies for giving you those triggers. Otherwise, I mean, it's beautiful
Ah,
to see
yes.
you said.
There's never a wasted experience, as I say.
100%. Yes, it's always, a step towards success. That's beautiful. So, What was the biggest mental block you saw in people? I mean, as people, we have a lot of mental blocks. So, what do you think is the biggest mental block, and how can we, increase our perfection or our precision towards work, getting over these mental blocks?
I think that each of us has a lot of mental blocks. But keeping true to the nature of this meeting, I'll talk about the mental blocks that people have when it comes to positioning themselves, when it comes to marketing themselves, when it comes to seeing themselves as a brand in themselves, right? So the biggest thing that I've noticed in a lot of people that I consult with, and initially in myself too, right, when I first started this journey is, oh, I'm not big enough. Oh, I'm not famous enough. Let me reach a certain level in life, in my career, in my professional journey, and then I will. No, you first market yourself. You first see yourself as a brand, and then you will reach that certain level that you want to achieve, right?
True, true, beautiful. So, I think we have a lot of negativity we keep telling us, and it kind of feeds into our mind, and we drop ourselves down. So, do you see that there's a lot of self doubt in people? Have you seen that when you go and talk to them or your clients?
I've seen incredibly confident people in different areas of their life become incredibly disapproving of themselves, right? Someone once rightly said, we are our harshest critics. Right? When it comes to ourselves, we demand a certain level of perfection from ourselves. We're so hard on ourselves when it comes to our goals, our targets. We put ourselves up there and benchmark ourselves against, I think, ridiculous standards. But we're not so hard when it comes to other people, right? Like even within the teams, even a harsh manager would be sort of kind and approving of someone when they put in an effort. We tend to value people and their efforts more easily and more gently than we value ourselves. It's a I think it's a generic block that we have. We've driven to perfection, maybe because of the conditioning that we've had as children, maybe because of how the schooling and the environment, played into our psyche. But yes, it's there. It's inherently there. And we have to put a conscious effort to really come out of it.
True. Beautiful. Beautiful. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So let's go into a little bit of marketing and the connection you have with customer relations. You have been in that a lot. So, what are the three learnings that you have got through your career that you hold dear and you are using it for your, present mentorship and so on?
Well, I'd say not specifically around customer advocacy or customer relationships, but the three biggest learnings that I've had, and which I wish I had learned sooner, was one, blow your own trumpet. No one else will do it for you. Two, when you have the first mover advantage, take it. Don't wait to follow the lead. Be the lead. And third, listen, both internally and externally. And when I say listen, I mean pay attention. Pay attention to what you're telling yourself, right? Both the good and the bad things, right? What are you prominently telling yourself, that I can do certain things or I can't, that I am or that I am not, right? Simple things like this. Pay attention. Secondly, pay attention to the external factors too, right? When you're building a business or when you're working with customers, pay attention to what they're saying. Like in your head something works, and you're absolutely certain that if they follow this, this will work. But here's the thing, your customers are not you, right?
Yes.
So yes, they are willing to follow you. They do want to make it work. But when they are talking about their pains, their challenges, listen, and listen actively, right? Because 90% of the problems will be solved when you listen actively, because then you identify certain things that you did not think of, that they're telling you, and then you can craft out a better strategy for them. And if you don't have a better strategy, you can learn yourself of what should be done in such a situation and grow yourself. And eventually you'll be able to help others in your network grow as well. So yeah,
Wonderful.
these are I'd say the three biggest learnings, but there are many, but these are the three that I wish I knew earlier. And these are the three that I try to tell people as and when I get an opportunity.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I think three gems you have given us. That's really nice. So, as you were talking about, blowing your own trumpet. So, what's common between personal branding and blowing your trumpet? What's different between the two also?
What's common and what's different? That's a very interesting question, but let me answer that another way. Each of us, we are always branding ourselves. We're always marketing ourselves, whether we realize it or not, right? For example, when you submit a CV for a new job, like a resume, you are marketing yourself through
Mhm.
your CV. When you
Yes.
meet people at a party or a function or at a family gathering, you're marketing yourself. Now, some of this might be what you call attention marketing, in the sense, how you present yourself, how you dress. Let's say the superficial elements, for lack of a better word, right? And sometimes it's deeper than that. So it's really not a question of you know the how, or are you marketing yourself. It's more a question of how effectively are you doing it, right?
Yeah.
What do you come across as to people, as an authority in your domain, as someone who's knowledgeable, someone who can transfer that knowledge, someone who they should listen to,
Hmm.
all right? Or do you just come across as one of the many leaves floating in the air, following, or getting
Correct.
carried where the wind goes, right?
Yes.
So yeah, I'd say that's the thing. Does that make
Beautiful.
sense?
Yes, it does. It does. So it's the way you carry yourself and the way you project yourself. Sometimes it's really necessary. So well put. I mean, I think we need to learn that. At times people just forget it and go along with, as you said, being blown up. So we need to learn that and work along. So beautiful.
And can I add something there though?
Sure,
Now that you
sure.
mentioned it, right? Like, I may not have put out the exact essence of what I was trying to say. Yes, how you present yourself is definitely valuable, right? But when you think about personal branding, or when you think about any brand for that matter, you should first understand what a brand is not. Your brand is not your logo. Your brand is not your color theme of your website, right? Your brand is not the ads that you put out or how great they are. Your brand is the actual value that you provide the end user, the customer, the client, right? So a lot of the times we end up giving a lot of emphasis on things that are necessary but not vital, right? Like, what should be my brand logo? How perfectly should I design it? What's the color theme? How does it match with my website? Believe me, as you grow, you will figure these things out. There's nothing, you know, rocket sciencey about them. But the real essence of your brand is what you deliver to your customer or your client, and that should be the core of your focus right from day one. The real value of your personal brand is what you bring to the table, right? And if all you can bring to the table is a brand, a couple of great color schemes, and some good-looking ads, then you're not really bringing much, right?
True, true, true. So it's just a makeup you put around them, but the originality is still inside. So
Yeah, yeah,
that's
the makeup is absolutely necessary, right? As you grow, as you become bigger,
Mhm,
all
mhm.
an amazing PowerPoint presentation is necessary, right? But is that what will actually resonate with your customer? For example, let me give you an example, right? The Adidas logo. If Adidas had a different logo, would you buy the product? Would you still buy an Adidas shoe or an Adidas, this thing, right? Adidas product?
Mhm.
You would, I would, right? Because the quality or what Adidas offers is not a logo. They
Yes.
offer
It's a
an
promise kind of thing. They give a lot of promise with that, actually, more than just the logo, right?
Yeah, exactly. And they've built that over time, right? The quality
Yes.
and the value that they give their customer. Now there is a story behind Adidas logo, right?
Hmm.
But the question is, do you know what it is? I didn't know what it was until I read a case study on it. Not many people know what the story behind the Adidas logo is, but Adidas spent millions of dollars in research and
Oh,
surveys in trying to understand athlete behavior so they could come up with that logo. And there's a beautiful story behind that logo. I'm not going
okay.
to share it here, but
Yeah,
if you're listening to this, do read out on that story. And
sure.
then you will realize that whether you know the story or not, it doesn't really matter. You buy Adidas for the value that it brings.
100%. Yes. It's beautiful. So you've given us a small snippet which we should go and learn from. So beautiful. Going on. So let's know three key advices you would like to give people who are, looking for image development and marketing kickoffs. What will be your three key advices you'll give them?
Um, well, one, like I said, whether you realize it or not, you're always marketing yourself. You're always putting yourself out there. So, it's just a question of how effectively are you doing it? Is it aligned with your vision and your goals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's never too early to start
Mm-hmm.
building your brand.
Okay.
It's never too early. You can do it when you're in college. You can do it when you're in school. You can do it right after you graduate from college and start working. It's never too early. The longer you have to build your brand, to build your authority, to build your expertise, the better it will serve you, right? If you start at 20, by the time you're 30, you have a much bigger advantage over someone who has this realization when they're 28, right? Because
Yes.
you've got 8 more years to have built that brand. And that's very important. Two, everybody started as a nobody. So there's never a situation, an ideal time in life when you can be like, yes, I am a somebody now, and then, now I can think about branding myself. No, you first brand yourself, and then you will become a somebody, right? Everyone started off as a nobody, and there is no shame in that.
100%.
There's no shame in low reach. There's no shame in low engagement. There's no shame in zero views when you put out a video or a post, right? It's okay. But that is a foundation, and the foundation is not what is seen. Foundation
Mhm.
is what lies underneath, right?
Correct.
But a strong foundation can help you build something beautiful and magnificent on top. And
Wonderful.
I think the third one is to understand what it is that you're marketing, right? Everybody, I mean, these days, I also see that it's become a trend. Everyone's thinking about building a personal brand. Everybody's going and buying a domain in their name, right? You want to have a myname.com. It's all great, but understand fully what it is that you're marketing through that domain, right? What is your unique voice? And people are not clear about that. But so then what happens is you build out a product, you build out a brand, you build out your image, but you're not able to relate it to anything, and other people are not able to relate to you because of that. So identify your unique voice, understand what it is that makes you the
Mhm.
person that you are, the product that you are, the brand that you are, and then market that thing, market that unique voice.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I think that the ingraining in you all these three things, we will be able to make a bigger reach and a bigger brand. So wonderful. Thank you so much for that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Super. So, how did you plan to venture into training industry after a career graph? You could have gone back into career, but what was the pulling for this?
Wow, that's a good question, and it's something that I've contemplated on. It's something that I've spent many evenings and nights thinking about. And you see, I realized that the easiest thing to do is to say, "I'll do it at a better time."
Hmm?
But then a better time is a very relative concept. There never is a better time, right? When you are challenged, when you are, in an uncomfortable situation, is the only time that you can grow. Now, you see, I can go back to the corporate world, get a job, get a good position, and be settled into that comfort zone. I know that a paycheck is going to come in at the end of the month. I know that my job is well defined, and I know what I have to do. I know I can accomplish a result. I'm not really challenged, and I have
Yes.
no motivation to step out of it because it's a very comfortable place to be. There's an assurance of a paycheck coming in. There's an assurance that I know what I do. There's an assurance that I have a team. There's an assurance that I can accomplish it, right? So you're not challenged. And growth happens when you're in uncomfortable situations and when you're challenged. This is uncomfortable for me. This is challenging for me, right? Um, I'm learning about how to go about building your own business, scaling it, reaching out to people, right? Without deep pockets of money to burn. Like in a
Right.
company, yes, you can achieve your targets because you've got the backing of a budget, right? You can spend as much as you want on ads, but here it has to be more than that. You have to think outside of that. How can you position yourself? How can you leverage existing networks? How can you leverage the channels that are available to you at your disposal and achieve what you want to do without much of a budget, right? And that's challenging, but that's also where growth lies. So that's what really pushed me into this. And I'd say, how do I plan on venturing, or what am I going to do? I'm going to do the same thing that I was speaking about for so long, by relying on my experiences that I've gained over these years, right? The insights that I've been presented with, and the fortune of learning from some amazing people in the industry, some amazing mentors. Now it's time to
Beautiful.
take all of that and translate that into my own reality.
Beautiful. So you're putting in all the efforts that you have got put in and you're gaining the result and now you're putting it to others. So I think you're kind of, learning and giving it back. So that's really nice and wishing you success in that. So tell us more
Thank you.
about your products, what you're actually, giving, what are your courses or what are your solutions that you're providing?
Right. So my products, well, I wouldn't call them products, right? But my offerings, my services, are in a lot of ways helping you understand who you are beyond just the name, beyond just the title, beyond just what you do, and identifying that unique voice about yourself. Because in a world that is saturated with content, saturated with information, and that's saturated with people demanding and seeking attention, how do you stand out, right? Because there is nobody in the world that's doing something 100% original, 100% unique. If you're doing something, someone else is also doing it. Right? So what makes you stand out? And if someone else is doing it, there are 1,000 people doing it, right? So how are you going to stand out? How are you going to stand out to your target audience, to your target customer, and stand out from among the 500 other ads that they see, the 500 other attention requirements that they get from people like you? What makes you stand out, right? What makes you unique? Because I've realized one thing in 12 years of experience, that nothing captures attention like authenticity.
Mhm.
And that's one of the things that I do, right? I help people discover their authentic voice, their unique self. Now, this is important because this discovery is crucial in the next step. And the next step is positioning yourself in your market, right? You can be a software engineer, you can be a marketing leader, you can be a coach or a trainer, you can be a healer, you can be anything, right? But you're not the only one in that industry. Now, how do you position yourself within that market? What are the tools available at your disposal that you can leverage without, shelling out heavy amounts of money on ads and all that, right? This is the second part of it, where I help people position themselves in the market by making use of existing channels, existing resources, and creating a thought leadership around their name. And then the third part is the thing called thought leadership. See, I think it's a word that's been overused, misused, and quite often abused, right? But thought leadership essentially is, I would say, an eagle being an eagle. An eagle cannot be a cheetah, right? An eagle cannot be a monkey or an elephant. Now, in order to be that eagle, it first has to embrace its true self, right? As it's growing up, there has to be a time when it jumps out of the nest and realizes that it was born to fly, right? It wasn't born to run or to climb, it was born to fly. And you as an individual, you were born to do something, right? The 7.5 plus billion people on the planet, and I can assure you each one of them is a unique thought leader in their own way. Because two people may go through the similar experiences, two of them will come out with entirely different learnings, right?
Yes.
Two people can go through the same situations, but their experience of that situation is going to be entirely different. So nobody is like you. And this realization is what will help you become a thought leader or position that thought leadership out there in the market.
Wonderful.
And this, and I take thought leadership as one of the fundamental pillars. But why is this important? Because quite simply because there are two ways. There is the ad way of getting your customers, paying money to run ads and getting customers. Then there is the organic way. Unfortunately, what a lot of us don't really understand is that if it's costing you 1,000 rupees to get 100 leads today, 5 years later or 3 years later, even 2 years later, it'll cost you 5,000
Yeah.
rupees to get that 100 leads. So your positioning has to beat the ad inflation, right? Let's put it another way.
Yes. Yes.
You have to
Yes.
build a foundation, an organic presence that is compelling enough that 2 years later people see you growing, and that growth is what will inspire them to follow you, to be your customer, to engage with you, to trust you.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So I think we got a lot of insights in that one particular question. So I think many of your services, as you say, offerings, as you say, is I think going to help a lot of people out there. And I was going to
I
ask
hope
about
so. Yeah.
thought leadership, and I think you have answered the question of thought leadership already. So that's beautiful. So what are your final thoughts to the budding minds, budding people, budding entrepreneurs, or the individuals out
Um, that's a good question. That's something, I've been trying to write, and I've been trying to get out to people as well, right? So it's very difficult to put in a couple of sentences because it requires years of work to actually understand and fully embrace it. But let me put it in a sentence. Let me try and combine the essence of it into a single sentence. I would say you are not a victim of circumstance. You are not a reflection of what is handed to you.
there?
You are what you demand of life. If you demand greatness and wealth and riches and success, then that is what life will give you. But if you demand that, I am a victim of my circumstances, this is how I was raised, and therefore I am like this, that's that's a situation, right? It's not a reality set in stone. So always remember, like the great poet says, I am the master of my fate, I am the captain of my soul. And embrace that philosophy. Understand that you are anything that you demand of yourself. If you demand excellence, then you shall get excellence. If you demand mediocrity, then you shall get mediocrity.
Superb, superb, superb. So I
Second
think,
thing,
sorry.
sorry, the second thing is never underestimate the power of collaboration, right? Always try to collaborate with your peers who are doing things like you, who are doing maybe different things like you, but wherever you are in life, because one, there is immense learning in it, right? You can learn through your mistakes, but you can also learn from the mistakes of other people. You can learn from your successes. You can also learn from the successes of other people. So it's very important to have that network, because as you grow, this network is something that you may be able to lean back on at some point.
Super. I think I actually keep vocalizing for networking and for personal branding, and I can reflect from whatever you have said. I can relate to it through whatever you have said. So thank you so much for taking
Absolutely.
time today, and it was a really beautiful session. And wishing you and your offerings and all the people who learn from you all the best and all success to you always.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. It was an honor and a pleasure to be here, and I wish you success as well in your endeavors and in these conversations that you have with people. I think that these are amazing pearls of wisdom that you're providing your network, right? So
Thank you so much, George.